This morning, there are more than 4,000 former sub-postmasters who've been told they're eligible for compensation following the Horizon IT scandal. It's been criticised for being too slow.
And this morning, the Business and Trade Committee has published a report which recommends the removal of the Post Office's involvement in the process, saying it's not fit for purpose to administer any of the schemes required to make amends.
Yes, the committee's chair, Liam Byrne, joins us now. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Mr. Byrne.
Thanks.
The report only came out, half an hour or so ago. Do you want to just tell us succinctly as you can the key recommendations?
Yeah, the payment of redress to former postmasters is frankly a shambles. Only £1 in 5 of the budget for compensation has yet been paid out despite all of this time. So what we're suggesting is that the circus at the post office has got to stop. The post office needs taking out of all of the redress schemes. We need an independent organisation to support some postmasters putting in their claims. And crucially, we propose what we call this Mr. Bates test. Mr. Bates proposed to ministers a legally binding time frame within which claims have got to be offered and then settled. And frankly, that's the only way that I think that we can guarantee that this doesn't drag on and on and on and on. And enough already, basically. We can't go on like this. We've got to get justice done.
So, on the issue of taking this out or away from the post office, talk about an independent organisation. What does that look like?
Well, we've asked the government to come and tell us what they think it should look like. But, I mean, there's a lot of different options for these things. So government could appoint independent commissioners, for example, to deliver redress. You could set up a very small team that could be part of the Department for Business and Trade. So, you know, we don't want to kind of bind the government's hands. But what we are saying very clearly to the government, and this is a cross-party report, remember, we're saying to the government, look, we cannot go on with this chaos at the top of the post office because it is basically slowing the whole process down. So let's take the post office out of the equation and let's actually set up an independent organisation that provides all the access to things like forensic accounting and legal help and medical records so that sub-postmasters just don't have to go through the three-ring circus that they currently have to go through at the moment just to get justice done. I mean, you've done such a brilliant job on this programme at highlighting what people have had to go through. And I think the country is furious with the stories that they're hearing. But still, we're in this position where only £1 in 5 of the budget for redress is paid out. And it's not good enough, frankly, and we need to get a grip of it.
So, very clearly, what's coming across from your recommendations is a time that this is a time for moving quickly with this. Things need to change quickly. Are there I just don't know this. Are there practical complications with removing the post office out of this and setting up this other body, whatever that would be? Are there practical? Is it complicated? What I'm thinking is if we next get the minister on, Kevin Hollinrake, and he's going to say, well, we'll look into this. That's precisely what you're saying you don't want to do. You want things done now. Is there a reason why that can't happen immediately?
I don't think there is. And crucially, what the government has committed, and this is a good thing, it's committed to bring to the House of Commons a bill that is going to overturn all the convictions. That's one particular group of the victims. And so our argument on the committee is, well, look, if you're going to bring a bit of legislation to the Commons, if you're going to change the laws of the land, why don't you use that bit of legislation to actually create legally binding deadlines and a legal process that cuts through the nonsense at the moment? So don't let that piece of legislation go to waste, if you like. Use it to make sure that we've got the powers on hand to cut through the nonsense.
I'm just going to quote to you, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Jo Hamilton, who you'll be familiar with, one of those postmasters involved. She has accepted a settlement and that will pay off her mortgage, she says, and debts. But she says herself she got less than she hoped for. I just go on to say what she said. She said she and her husband accepted the offer. They were exhausted. Said, while I didn't want to walk away, we were just tired. We had debt around our ears, a large mortgage. I think it was the right thing to do. And now she says she feels survivor's guilt because of the time passing, the battle that they have all fought. I think what she says there very much illustrates some of the reasons why it matters even more, why things happen more quickly.
I mean, it's just wrong, isn't it? I mean, you've got poor people like Jo who are basically being exhausted into submission. And, you know, when we organised our hearings a couple of weeks ago, we heard from some of the victims' lawyers who said that at the current snail's pace of getting cheques in the post, it could still take 1 to 2 years to get all of the redress payments in the post. And I just think that's unacceptable. I mean, there are literally victims who are dying before they see justice. This is one of the biggest miscarriages of justice in British history, and we just cannot go on like this. So, as I say, look, this is a cross-party committee that has come to these recommendations. They're very simple, they're very clear, it will get the job done, and now the ball is in the court of the ministers to come back and say, will they take these recommendations up? Will they change the law of the land? And will they finally deliver justice for the innocent victims of this great scandal?
Liam Byrne, thank you very much for your time this morning. Liam Byrne, MP, speaking as chair of the Business and Trade Committee on those recommendations about the principal one, as you heard a moment ago, removing the post office from the ongoing investigations and inquiry. We will, of course, be following that story very closely.